Ron, what are some of the biggest challenges you've faced in the industry, and how did you overcome them?
Uh, there's never a shortage of challenges. It's when I started at Catskin, it was making product quick. We were, for the longest time when I started, I mean, probably the first decade, we budgeted our annual sales based on what we could make. And we were striving to become a 24-hour, 24 to 48-hour turnaround on any custom interior you could want.
Welcome to the Ride and Style Podcast, your turbocharged pit stop for automotive restyling. Buckle up with Jesse and Josh.
Welcome to another episode of the Ride and Style Podcast. We're already on episode 9, and today we have a guest. Woo! We have Ron Leslie, VP of Sales for Katzkin. Hi, Ron. How are you today?
I'm great, Jesse. Thanks for having me.
Ronnie,
Yeah, excellent. Thank you for
Ronnie
being here.
baby,
Oh, awesome.
27 years in the business, Jesse. We got one of the legends with us. The leather,
I'm a legend.
Ron, what
Okay.
nicknames do people have for you in the business? Any?
I, you know, Nicknames are funny because I have a rep who renames everybody in his
Uh-oh.
phone by a different name, and they're not polite names. And so, worked for Wabasto at one point, and the next rep that got his phone got all these customer nicknames in there: snake, slum war, all these crazy things. Some I won't repeat just because I want to keep it PG. And I keep joking with him, like, one of these days when you're fired, I'm going to fire you just for it. I want to know what my nickname is because I don't know what it is. And I'm sure I have one in his phone. I'm going to have to be there and take his phone away to find out. But I don't know what
Leather
nickname I have.
Leslie. I don't know. I mean, maybe it's just lovable Leslie. Maybe that's that's what that's what he hopes all the resellers think, right? So
Oh, we try to work hard for our customers. So.
And Ron, before we dive into everything, can you just give us a quick background on who you are and what you're doing in the industry now? We'll go back in time and talk about the past in a minute. So,
Well, it's pretty simple with me. I'll start from the beginning. I grew up in a family business, small business, so it kind of was a good entree into working with restylers. I went to college, got a degree working with auto dealers out of Northwood University. Immediately went into the Sutter side of the business, met restylers, and a few years later, I started at Catskin and to do their marketing and branding and kind of get that started. I did that for the first couple of years. I took over the VP of sales 21 years ago now. And I guess I reached my plateau because that's exactly what I've done for the last 21 years. There was nowhere else to go. No, it's truly, I just love it. But my whole career has been Catskin, either on the marketing side, the OEM side, or the total sales side. And then before that, I was in the sunroof business, a little time in OEM with my previous employer, ASC. Actually, was on the team that launched the first mobile video system for automotive at one point. And but no, I'm a restyler guy, been a restyler guy my whole career. So it's been a
that's
really
awesome.
cool run.
Josh, how did you guys meet? How did you meet
Ron's
Ron?
Ron's a legend. It probably was the first recollection I remember is when you were hired from ASC. So this is 23 years ago. Or maybe when you were promoted to, like, not the national sales manager. Back then you were like the marketing guy. And Mitch introduced me to Mitch Katzkin, the founder of Katzkin, and he said this Ron guy, which Ron was about my age, so I was like, oh, cool, you guys got somebody, not that Katzkin was old, but I mean, I just knew him immediately, and then I remember like a year later thinking, okay, I wonder, talking to a few peers, and they're like, somebody said, well, that guy's really sharp. And so that was my first impression. I'm like, okay, well, I better trust what this guy says. So, and we'll get into it, but yeah, Ron, don't let him kid you. He's done a lot for this industry, a lot for the leather business, a lot for Catskin, a lot for restylers. I do want to ask you, Ron, who you said you met restylers. Who was the first restyler you met to understand what restyling was?
Uh, the first restyler, I don't know what the first one I met
or the
was.
first one that really made
It
an
might have been
impact
like
on you?
Chuck Dale. The first one that made an impact on me, and the first one that was one of my regular customers when I started selling sunroofs, was Ralph
Okay.
George. And Ralph took me under his wings and taught me so much about the business. And the really cool thing, Ralph was already established by that point, and he was the largest restyler in the country,
Mhm.
or the largest single point at that
Yeah.
point. And he was incredibly successful. He'd been successful for a couple decades at that point already. He started in the early 80s. And he was still going out 3 to 4 days a week, seeing dealers. He was still taking me to the dealers, teaching me the way he sold. And it was so enlightening. Because he was, you know, one of the cool things about selling the car dealers is, you keep your spirit up, you get pumped up, you go in, you have that great energy. And all the good salespeople do that. And Ralph was amazing. Forever he was doing that. And he taught me a lot. He taught me a ton about doing things right, standing behind your product, motivation,
He
excitement. He
he
was
did
great.
totally
He was
live
the
this
first one.
business. I mean, hey, we're talking about, so he has a shop called, now it's called SAT, Specialty Auto Treatments. They're down in Fort Lauderdale. Now Ralph sadly passed away about, 2017, 2018. I can't remember exactly. And then he
Yeah,
also
it's been a while.
won Lifetime Achievement Award. And his son, Ralph Jr. and Christina, run the business now. Christina's over in Germany, but she's coming back. But yeah, awesome, awesome growth. I mean, talk about leather. I mean, we're not giving to give away secrets, but I remember one time being there and UPS pulled or dropped off some leather kits. The whole truck was leather kits. I was like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. This guy does some leather.
No, he's awesome. I mean, they were rolling 50 kits a day there for the longest time. It's awesome. I had a lot of cool customers at the beginning. A lot of them are, kind of says my age. They're not necessarily here, all of them anymore. But like Jack Cole was a
Cole
trip
Brothers, yeah.
out of Nashville. He Yeah, from Cole Brothers and that. Jack was so much fun. Because Jack liked nothing more than to work hard all day and party all night. And so I was in my 20s and living in Atlanta at the time. And Jack would call me with ideas, no doubt. Like Sunday morning at 2 a.m. My phone would be going off. And if I'd answer, and I answered it most of the time because I still do that. But he'd call me, I got this great idea. You got to be up here Monday morning. We're going to go to the dealers and we're going to do this. And it's like, all right, Jack, I'll leave my house at 5. I'll be there at 8. It's like,
Wow.
a lot of fun. But I mean, that's restyling. I mean, you come up with creative ways to help the dealers sell more cars and you go out and do it. So,
Are most restylers alike? Are they all different? I mean, or would you categorize them like with you when you meet with your sales staff? Do you go, okay, this is an A type restyler, this is a B type, this are a level 1, a level 2? I mean, how do you guys differentiate restylers?
um, we you have
Yeah,
differentiations
sure.
based on volume. So you have some restylers that are still learning the business and can only get so much product through. So you've got developmental restylers that you're focusing more technical resources toward because they really need installation help, training help, business organizational help. And, because if you're running a 4-man, 5-man shop, you don't have a salesperson. So how
Yeah.
does the owner organize his day to get out and do things? And those customers are critically important. I mean, they grow, they become the future of the business. But then you've got your larger customers who need more focus on our product because they get bigger and they have a lot of products they may be offering. So how do we're fighting for our mind share. I mean, we want you to sell leather and heaters and coolers 24/7, but you're selling tent and truck lifts and wheels and XYZ accessories. So I guess we don't categorize them differently, but the way the sales team handles them, they may be providing different assets and different resources to different people based on, where they're at in their business development.
Hey,
So,
Ron, what are some of the biggest challenges you've faced in the industry, and how did you overcome them?
uh, there's never a shortage of challenges. It's, when I started at Catskin, it was making product quick. We were, for the longest time when I started, I mean, probably the first decade, we budgeted our annual sales based on what we could make. And we were striving to become a 24-hour, 24 to 48-hour turnaround on any custom interior you could want, which is really, it was really a heavy lift because, we built the business into delivering product in 24 to 48 hours, 3,000 patterns, 100 plus colors, design it any way you want, put Bubba on the driver's seat and Bobby Sue on the passenger seat, do whatever you want to the seat and order it on Monday and we'll ship it on Tuesday. And so building that kind of system took us a lot of production expertise and really created a unique advantage for Katzkin. And it was one of the ways we went from being a small company in the industry fighting for, 10% market share to a much larger part of the business was to be creative and be fast. Because one thing we learned and we're really committed to in this business, when a restyler calls in an order, he's late before he got the order. The dealer wants that car back, wants to close that sale, wants to make that delivery. And so we evolved the business into that. That was a big challenge, was having more capacity than we needed and then managing to it for a business that would work. And then building up the infrastructure of warehouses all over the country, stocking 600, factory style SKUs and all that. That was a heavy lift.
It was, in fact, it was so good. They did such a good job, Jesse, that all of a sudden us restylers, we get a call from our dealership says, "Hey, I have a truck here, I need leather. It's Monday. All right. We'll have it done by Wednesday because we'll have it Tuesday. We'll do it Wednesday." And then all of a sudden COVID comes. And then all of a sudden Katzkin has some, a little maybe supply change I'll let him talk about, but it jumped to 2 weeks. And these dealers are like, "What do you mean it's going to take 2 weeks?" Yeah. I'm like, well, everything in the world takes 2 weeks right now. Now, the good thing is Katzkin's come back. And now we can have it again fast, but we don't promise our dealers it's fast. We haven't come all the way back. So we still give us a little bit of buffer time. So, but what were the challenges during COVID with supply chains? Why did it take?
Oh, what wasn't the challenge? Yes. Yeah. What wasn't the challenge during COVID? Right. But, the first challenge was right out of the gate, right? You got into it like in 2020, you get March. And so we've got 3 manufacturing facilities. We've got the one in Los Angeles. We got one in just south of there over the Mexican border. And we got one in Malaysia. And so when COVID hit, California, of course, was on the leading edge of shutdown and control and all that stuff. So we have this day that comes up in, it was a February or March of 20, something like that. And they're like, okay, LA is going to have to close. All businesses close. We're like, "Oh, no, we got stuff to do." But they're like, no, on Monday, we were like on a Friday, like Monday, nobody's going to be able to answer the phone. Nobody's going to be able to come to the office. Nobody's going to be able to do this. So literally, the team at Katzkin, there are so many amazing people there. So like at Friday, we're talking about this, we're going through all these things. Our receptionist, we're figuring out how to unwire our switchboard for the entire factory. And then we take our entire IT team to her house and set it up on her kitchen table so that Monday morning at 6 a.m., when restylers try to call, we'll be able to take the call. We don't know how we're going to make anything. Well, we got a plant in Mexico that's not closed down right now. So we're going to figure it out. And we ship product every day. We never closed. We never closed 1 minute of one day through the entire run of COVID. Now, the plant in California closed, but we shipped out of Mexico, or we shipped out of Malaysia. We had to figure out how to do a direct ship out of Malaysia when Mexico got closed down, but then California was back up. And then all the supply logistics. There was a run for 6 months. I'm not kidding you. We were managing supply, trying to get stuff in because you're getting short shipped, not shipped. Stuff wasn't getting across, where we didn't know at 4 p.m. one day if we were going to be able to make kits the next day because we didn't have airbag fabric, and every interior we make has airbag fabric on the seam. You can't make anything without airbag fabric. But our airbag fabric supplier short shipped us, and we had to find, and it's not like you could just go down to the local trim supply
I think
store
they do
and
have
buy,
it at CVS.
you
You just got to go in the back cabinet. It's called airbag supply.
Yeah. Or
Yeah,
breakaway thread or black leather. I mean,
they did.
whatever
They
it
ran out
was.
of
I mean, it
black.
was
I was like, "What color are
every
you
day
guys
there
out of?" He
was.
said, "We're out of black." I'm like, "How are you out of black leather? You could wait. You could send me sunrise yellow, but you don't have black." I
We
thought
did
you
not run
did.
out of black. No, we never ran out of black. We
Oh,
came
okay.
within a day of it. But no, it was a challenge. And it, I look, I mean, it sounds a little company centric to say everybody's great. It's, it's a phenomenal group of people that are really dedicated to customers in the business. There's a
Yeah,
really good customer focus. We've always been kind of known for a few things, and one of them is really good customer service. And we really invest in customer service. Like Josh should attest to this. It's all the companies you deal with. When there's a problem, and there's going to be problems, a part's made wrong, or they rip it when they're installing it, or something happens, we make parts same day, all the way up until like 2 p.m. Eastern. Josh can be doing an install at 1 p.m. He's like, oh, shoot, I got this car is disassembled. It's got to go back to the dealer. The headrest ripped when we were putting it on. He calls us at like 1 o'clock. I'm like, okay, it'll be there in the morning. So I mean, we have to make that part, however it was, red with, Billy Bob written on it. He's still going to get it tomorrow morning, to do that. And that's a huge focus of the company. That, and we have a fun group of sales guys who like to have a good time and go out and see car dealers. So, that's kind of what and good product. I mean, I've been really blessed. I've kind of grown up here. I was in my 20s. Now I'm in my 50s, but it's a really fun product to sell. And, it's all about the people you work with. You spend half your life with them. So, you got to have fun.
Hey, Ron, how has the industry changed since you first got involved, and where do you see it heading in the future?
You know, there's certainly a lot of change in the industry. I mean, when I first started at Katzkin, our number one selling vehicle was a Grand Marquis. With
yeah.
with
It was a
with
GS
gathered
model,
in
by the way.
yeah, gathered inserts and piping, and all the restylers were putting
Yeah,
simulated
baby,
convertible tops
loved
on
it.
them. Okay.
Marquee
Um,
classic, I called it.
I remember early on in the business, like 20 years ago now, and this will be funny for restylers that are entered the business in the last 15 years. I used to beg restylers all the time. We got to go after the truck market. We've got to go after the truck market. There's no leather on these trucks. They sell a lot of trucks. Oh, they're all commercial. No, people drive trucks, and we can do trucks. And restylers were so disinterested in trucks over 20 years ago. It was like, no, that's for the truck cap
Yeah, we
guys.
don't do anything to truck.
That's what the truck market wants. I'm like, no, yeah, we do Honda Odysseys and Toyota Camrys and Grand Marquis. No, trucks are going to be big, guys. We got a big operation. And now my top 10
Yeah.
models all have a truck bed. But but no, I mean, so, talk about a shift. From now cars are basically an appliance for
Yeah.
not all cars, but the mass market cars are mainly used as an appliance. They just want them to get back and forth to work. And so we could still sell those for an economic angle for the person that wants to have the ease of leather and the luxury of leather, but doesn't want to pay for a $7,000 package. That's still there. But the real market is in the trucks and the SUVs and the styling.
Besides
and
trucks, take trucks out of it
look
now. Think about it. For the last 23 years you've been at Katzkin, the number one vehicle, would it be a Camry? Just overall volume.
outside of trucks, probably
Oh,
because Camry was
Camry-
so dominant.
Jesse, it was just a line of Camrys that we used to do. Just a line of Camrys. And it was great about it. It only came in two colors. You either got gray or tan. Yeah. And so what color's your car? Gray. And it didn't have a bunch of models, for the longest time. And then eventually it got weird and they had a weird VIN number. Where was it built? We had to send you the right kit. But for the longest time, it was just Camrys. Because then you could also do power sunroofs and leather in a Camry, home run. Oh, love Camrys.
Yeah, Camrys were awesome for the longest time, and it probably was. I'm trying to think. we did a lot of Honda Odysseys for a
Yeah.
run there. There was years where Honda Odysseys huge. But no, it's probably Camry. I mean, it's
Yeah.
definitely
Now
trucks
it's all
overall
trucks,
at this
SUVs,
point.
cars.
Well, Mark.
Uh, Ron, I wanna ask, over at SEMA, the our friend that we affectionately call Gandalf, the wizard, who does all of the studies and that puts out the SEMA reports. Trucks is dominated, and they're actually predicting the CUV in general as being the next big thing because of the number of them on the road. So I'm
Yeah.
wondering if you guys are already kind of seeing that at all with leather installs?
Certainly. I mean, we have a pretty big diversity, and we make it for everything. Anything that has cloth or synthetics or things like that, we're going to pattern it so that the dealers and our customers can upgrade it. Um, the uh, the CUV market, if you consider like a RAV4 or a CRV to be in that market, definitely among the best sellers there are, those customers want that luxury. But our market is created by being able to do what the factory wishes they could do. It's it's great customization, great personalization on the interior, and then there's the economic angle. We still got to fit an economic angle that makes sense. So if the CUVs are offering a premium leather on the lower trim lines, then it becomes less attractive for our product. But what's really, really cool is used cars have gotten so expensive that they've went from an afterthought in our business to
Yeah.
over a third of the business. And I mean, that's been the huge part of the huge ride over the past few years, really, as the cost of a used car doubled. I mean, literally doubled over the past 4 to 5 years. It's particularly for a late model used. They used to be
Mhm.
20, now they're 40. And on a $40,000 vehicle, you can start to really make sense of putting a couple $1,000s into the interior, doing some accessorization, some restyling, and making it special. When it was a $20,000 vehicle, I mean, you're really bumping up against what can the buyer afford on that vehicle. Now, there's still buyers that want to personalize and make things cool and all that, but used cars are probably more excited about them than even that CUV segment.
Mm.
And but I mean, they'll create dysfunctional economics on some of them, and it'll be a huge win for the aftermarket, leather and other items, because I mean, I'm hearing from the OEMs right now a lot of decontenting on the lower and mid trim lines, and a lot less packages so that they can simplify production, especially with the domestics. They need to simplify their manufacturing to maximize their output. Now their cost factors have gone up because of some stuff with UAW contracts and different things. They really need to be efficient. That efficiency is going to limit options for vehicle trim line packages, and it's just great for the restylers. I mean, and leather will be one thing, but I mean, it'll be everything. It'll be blind spot and back up and all the other items that they add for
That
dealers.
that word that you used, I think you said decontenting.
Mhm.
Is that the word? Can you explain that to beginners or people that are not as savvy?
Yeah, for sure. And so it's if you go to try to buy a vehicle right now on some of the trucks or off-road vehicle trim lines like the Wranglers and the Broncos, they may literally have 15 different option packages as base packages. And then you can add or subtract any of hundreds of different options on your original equipment vehicle. For the OEMs, that is very, very difficult on their production assembly line process to be able to build that. And it kind of just builds over time and turns into this huge animal that they can't manage. And so then they say, okay, look, we're not doing 12 trim lines anymore and add any of 100 accessories. We're going to 3 trim lines. We're going to a base and a middle and a high, and we'll give you 3 options on each. And that's the way our cars are going to be positioned. And we're going to be more efficient. They may be able to make their cars for less money, or they may be able to make more profit by doing it that way. And so it all works out for them. But what that does for us is huge. I mean, that was the Camry thing, right? The Camry didn't have
Yeah.
options for the longest time. They had an LE and SE and an XLE. And if you wanted leather, you had to buy the XLE, and the LE and SE didn't have it. There was no way to get it. And so, that's the bones of the business. The more, the more complex the OEMs are willing to make their platforms and trim lines, the more it can make it difficult for those guys to be able to
I'll
offer
get, going along with
accessories.
that, Jesse, just, when you talk about decontenting, one thing that was, keyless entry is one of those things. So for instance, you pull out your keys and you have a little lock and an unlock button, right? In fact, almost every car now has that. However, during 08, 09, when that whole, when the Great Recession took place, manufacturers started decontenting that option and some other options similar. So now you would get a brand new car, Corolla, let's say. It would have power locks, but would not have that keyless entry. It would just be a normal key. And they would decontent different items on the vehicles to make them a little bit less money so that people could afford them. Well, all of a sudden our business, customers get used to something and they're like, whoa, how in the world can I get by without keyless entry? So, that's what happens is sometimes, like Ron says, these animals, these manufacturers have become monsters in what they're offering, and they have to go back and start decontenting just to put it back online and back on track. And then we pick up any of the scraps that are left over.
So their streamlining and
Yeah.
simplification, which is for their own
Sure.
economics, actually
Yeah.
benefits us because every time they remove an option, then it's an
Yeah,
opportunity
just
for
think about when they start
restylers, essentially.
decontenting remote
Yeah.
starts and saying, you know what, we're not going to put that on that model anymore. Everybody who gets that car who's used to that, now they need that remote start. Heated seats, leather, everything. So yeah, it's going to be really good actually for the next few years. I think I agree with Ron. I've heard that same thing. They're going to cut a lot of packages out and we're going to have a lot of opportunities, some open gaps. Now I want to tell you something about Ron. Ron comes up with a lot of words and he may have created decontenting. I don't know. But let me tell you another word he came up with that Jesse is absolutely in love with. So Jesse loves me only through Ron. And here's why. I'm the one that enlightened Jesse and his team into trim level economics. Now, Ron is the originator,
yes.
the grandfather, the godfather of trim level economics. So I'll let him explain what that means, but Jesse just fell in love with that and the whole thing about it.
I'm
And
just
Ron here is the one who I'm giving him all the credit. It was probably his wife, but tell us about that, Ron.
I'm enamored.
So
This is great.
I got to tell you this. So Trimley, you're right. When I first started in this business as an intern at ASC, I wasn't even out of college yet. A guy named Leo Zandy, who I think you've met before, Josh, used to run ASC sunroofs. And so I was this intern green kid coming in and said, and what are you going to do for the summer? He says, I want you to go through this auto black book manual and go through every vehicle made and determine the trim level walks for sunroofs between every trim line that there is. And so, I turned out this 150-page report at the end that had all the trim level economics and walks for sunroofs when I first started at ASC. So what it is basically, it's the non-sexy way to sell. So I'm not good looking, right? If I was running a restyle, hire good looking girls because that's a good benefit. But I'm not good looking, so I don't know what I'm talking about. So for me, it's trim level economics. You go in there and you say, okay, the difference between an LE model and an XLE model with the leather equipment, what I live, is $9,000. If you want to get leather on you want to get leather on this model, an F-150, before you can get an F-150 with leather, you've got to step up $9,000 from the base. It creates that walk. So the guy that walks in to buy an F-150 that has a dirty job and doesn't want a cloth interior, but just wants a 4x4 truck with seats that aren't going to look like garbage in 30 minutes, he's got to spend $9,000 more. That's the whole economic angle of our business. Like Restyler can offer a package to the dealer that he can make a profit on and sell to the guy for $2,000, and he doesn't get to walk to $9,000, and he gets the car he wants for $7,000 less than the OEM packages would allow. I mean, that's the economics of our business. And almost every model has just really good economic angles for doing what they're doing. And sometimes they're over $20,000. before you can step into a model that has the leather equipment on it.
It's a
And
win,
so,
win,
yeah,
win. Win
that's,
for the customer because they're not paying so much. Win for the dealership. They're selling the car they want to get rid of on the lot and making money, making more money. And win for the restyler. Win for the manufacturer. Win for the government because they collect taxes on all
You know,
four.
I had my uncle visited me briefly to say Merry Christmas, and he was asking about this, and I didn't explain it as well as you did, Ron, but the term walk value sounded so cool, and I didn't know, so I said, "You know what? Like, if you're at the dealership," and he says, "Well, let's
Hmm.
walk over here to this
Yeah.
this more expensive model." And I didn't know if it was figurative or literal, so I thought, well, maybe it's both. So you literally have to walk over to the other car or the other truck or whatever, and he got it immediately. And I said, yeah, and that's what a restyler does. They help get what you want and personalize without having to walk over
I
to the
just
more
thought
expensive
that
model.
that's
Is that
exactly
a
what it is.
fair
I just thought of
assessment?
something for your next podcast. When you do training for us, Ron, have a little, I mean, Miles can do this
Mhm.
in a second. Have a little guy, right? And say, okay, now let's look at Bronco. What's the walk? And have a little guy walk from the base Big Ben and he walks over to the whatever and says, okay, the walk is $4,000. And then he runs to the next one because it's only $2,000 or whatever. But that's exactly what it is, Jesse. It's the walk from trim level to trim level to trim level because you used to do that. Now, in the old days, it was, oh, you can't afford this. Let's walk backwards. So the other thing,
Well, you want
yeah,
that, right? I mean, you get the people who want to get the Denali, but they come in with the budget of an SL or what, an LT. And so, they walk them back down, but some of those things that they really wanted on the Denali, they can keep them for them on the
yeah.
LT if they're
So
working with the
tell
right
tell us
restyler.
about your
So,
your new initiative of how you're training restylers. I just love it, and I think it's a great way to get the information out there that we can rewatch. Tell us about that.
oh yeah, well, first of all, we have a great sales team. All right. I have a sales team of 15 people that are constantly working with our customers, providing support and selling tips and tools. And we've got a monthly newsletter, and we've got a weekly restyler focused letter that goes out. We got pattern releases. But I wanted to do something that would be received a little better. So I started doing some videos that were short, under 10 minutes. I was shooting for 5, and I realized I can't talk in 5-minute increments. I budget them for
Yeah, it's
5 and they
fine.
go 10. I have not come good enough to keep them under 10, but, or keep them under 5. But the idea was to have 2 or 3 things that would shoot out every week or 2 to restylers that would give them some of the economic information about some of the new cars, give them a sales tip or 2 that may be working in the field. Like the 24 Mustang came out on the last one. And so I told restylers, look, a lot of dealers stock Roush and Shelby packages and these $30,000 packages out there. Those packages won't be out for 6 to 12 months. So go to your dealers and put together some packages to fill that profit gap for them. So stuff like that you're not going to put in a typical new product release for a 24 Mustang. And then I try to cover 1 or 2 dealer objections and then try to get done in under 10 minutes. But we have really good response. It was so cool. I started running them and they're getting watched by like 80% of the people that are seeing it. And like 60% of the people are staying for the
Yep.
whole time. And so I'm looking at my Google Analytics on it, and I had to figure out how to do this. I'd never done any type of video casting. I'm still probably doing it in a real antiquated way, but I'm making a PowerPoint deck and reading through it basically, but it works. But it was a video, so I was getting 6, 8, 10 minutes from a couple hundred restyler salespeople out there, and
Yeah.
and then I got great feedback. They were like, "Yeah, give me more." Give me more. Videos are good. I don't want to
Yeah.
read an email,
Well,
but give me
and listen,
videos.
the emails
I
are
like
nice, but
video.
what I did is I got this and I said, this is great. So I immediately, and my reps get it too, because they're on the email blast, but I forwarded to him. I said, hey, watch this before our next, we meet once a week for a sales meeting. So not only did they watch it ahead of time, but then we watched it together at the sales meeting because it's only 10 minutes. And I got them for an hour. So I'm like, I'm going to take 10 minutes because what happened is they caught one thing that they wanted to focus on in the first time they watched it, but then they caught a second thing when we watched it together and we discussed it. So, I mean, it's a great tool. I love that you do it. And, I agree with you. Don't do it too often though, so that people go, "I'll just catch the next one," but often enough where it's relevant. It's a great tool. And Jesse's the marketing genius.
You know,
Jesse, what do you think?
R-
What could he? How could he do it better?
I think it's awesome. I think it's fantastic, and I think a big thing nowadays is to make sure that all this content is people learn in different ways. And so it's great if you have multimedia, multi-step, multi-channel kinds of marketing pieces where someone who wants the video, great. Maybe that same video content could be turned into a written version. You can transcribe those videos and then have them edited into blogs or some people want to read, some people want to watch, some people want to listen, right? So I love it. And I was going to lead me to my next question, Ron, which is obviously you've talked about customer service focus. You guys have that. And now I'm hearing that you do a good job of the education. What else makes Katzkin unique, especially toward restylers? But what makes you guys unique, and what sets you apart from the competition?
a great product. We have some advantages that would be very hard for our competitors to try to compete with from product quality and safety standards and things like that. I mean, we're also an OEM supplier. We're a supplier to Stellantis, supplier to Ford. We do airbag testing OEM, but more than airbag testing, we do full seat validation testing with the OEM. We have we have just so much more in the resource bucket than what anybody else could have there. But we also have a lot more fast, creative customization capability. I mean, we just can turn stuff around really quick at Katzkin. So, we come up with an idea and we try to launch in no less than a week. We come up with stuff. We want to do an American flag edition, perforated into the inserts, and we want to launch it for 4th of July. Boom, we're out there. We rock and we roll. We try to do it. So we try to do things really fast, and we're trying to be very creative. And then we also have to manage a huge inventory of warehouses around the country that allow the restylers to turn around the product in 24 hours. We still think that fast 24-hour turnaround is critical. This business, it's amazing. You would think a car purchase is something that people are willing to wait, and it's this idealistic thing like, yeah, they're going to go in and they're going to order their car and they're going to wait 10 weeks and they're going to get. That's not the way the car business works in the United States or Canada. People, it's a process. They want to take delivery now. So the fast turnaround, the great product, the safety, great service, just always trying to do. And I think listening is something that's really, really hard for a manufacturer. You got to be listening to your customers. If you do, you'll be very successful because your customers will tell you what you need to do. And you're also able to implement the feedback they give you, which makes you better. That's critically important. And it may seem simple. It's really hard to do. And we try to do a good job of it. Always try to do better. So.
Are you guys trying to expand? I don't know if you want to talk about acquisitions or anything like that, but the company is really
It's
expanding
been
quite a bit
announced
now, right?
It's great. So let's talk about it. I mean, let's be honest here. If I'm a manufacturer, my competition, they're a thorn in my side. So what do? You pull out the thorn and then you go, okay, I'm going to buy you. So that's what. So tell us about that, Ron. I mean, I know you've been working on it for 6 years, but no, 23 years.
What I mean. Yeah, we acquired a competitor, not to be named, but it was the right time. We needed to expand our production footprint. We got an additional plant out of it. We got some patterns that we didn't have allowed us to expand back into the older models, which we were getting more and more demand for because we've been investing millions of dollars into retail awareness of our product. So we're getting more demand for some of the backdated patterns and stuff, some we might not have had. And, for us, it was just really about doing the right thing for the business. We had been making all these investments to build a profitable business model for our customers and for the dealers, and something that would really work for the entire business. And so if somebody's not making that investment and they're just riding on the coattails of it, It would be a shame to see them be very successful discounting something. So there was definitely some advantage there, but it was just about doing the right thing for the business, and the time was right. So um, we acquired their assets, and it's been great. I mean, it's we've been able to transition their business, bring the quality level up to Katzkin standards, and introduce new patterns, and grow our bandwidth so that we can provide more inventory,
One
more
thing,
of
Jesse,
everything.
that is just amazing, what people still don't realize is if you go tour one of their factories, which I haven't been to Malaysia factory, but I've been to the one in Mexico and one in Montebello, and it's amazing when you walk in. First of all, you do see this huge like $1 million machine that's cutting the actual patterns out that have to be sewn eventually. But then, so you see the technology and you see the computer and let's say it's going to make an F-150 pattern. It lays out the color and it figures out exactly how to do it without any waste and all that. And then those pieces get piled and they get sent to an actual sewer that has a sewing machine. And the guy or gal just sits there and they sew it. So it's like, it's handmade custom still. And it's not all just computer, technology, robots, or anything like that. So, I mean, as cool, yeah, you can get some mistakes, but you can get mistakes with robots. So, to have somebody actually hand touch it and make it knowing that, man, somebody actually spent some good amount of time. And then to meet the deadlines that he's talking about it's very impressive when you go.
Yeah, it's called a Versalis. That we have several of these multi-million-dollar machines that it's they are amazing
Yeah.
pieces of equipment. So a leather hide is not a perfect canvas to work with. This is coming off of a cow, and our product is very natural. We don't sandblast our material. We go for a really nice hand, soft touch. So you can't just blast it off and emboss the grain on the to get that. You got to use the full grain top coat leather. So when you lay that hide out, it has to be scanned. And then you have to identify all the imperfections. Then you've got to nest 200 pieces that are all different pieces to make up this leather. Actually, on a Ram truck right now, it's like
Stupid Rams.
387 pieces have to be nested into these hides and vinyl that are going to make up the interior. Then you've got to cut the foam. Then you've got to combine all this stuff in any of 100 colors. Then you got to go through the whole manufacturing process, airbag sewing, all the clips and
J channel.
zippers and snaps and everything that goes. Then you got to box up, and you've got 24 hours to get this done 500 times. And it's really, really, look, I mean, it's a very, very intense business. We built an incredible, so Josh will tell you this. You can literally call Katzkin and say, okay, I want a kit that's red with black inserts, and I want it for a Chevy Silverado with a solid rear seat and color. You go pick up the car and you call us back like 30 minutes later and you say, oh, I'm sorry, the back seat's not solid. It's 6 hours.
Yeah.
You'd already cut it.
I'm going to call BS on that. I bet he's just charging me twice. No, he probably, they do. You better make sure you first, when you order it online or you call them, you better make sure because it's already on its way. It's already on the UPS truck.
Yeah. There's just no way to do it unless
great.
you roll it. I mean, it's,
I loved the Jeep that you guys had at SEMA, the one from Jurassic Park,
Yeah.
that design. It was so beautifully done. I took pictures of it. I really love that thing. I'm sure you've seen like you guys have done some special projects or maybe memorable projects. Is there anything that comes to mind that you could share? Anything that was sort of special or different?
we've done so many memorable projects over the years. It's, I mean, everything from, working with superstars like Shaq back in the old days and the Beach Boys on additions to the stuff we've done with Carol Shelby
Chip Foos.
and, Jack Rouse on Chip Foos, the stuff we did with Foos, we've got so many great things and we're just trying to keep growing it and taking it. I mean, at SEMA this year, we launched an edition with Steve McQueen's son. on a McQueen truck that's being built. They sold them out. And a couple hundred of them or something like that. And, I'll tell you what, one we did recently that was super, super cool. I loved this. So we have a company that does conversion builds that we work with, does a lot of trucks. There's this event in the California desert called the King of Hammers, where it's like for the ATV and serious off-roaders, they try to climb this King of Hammers trail, and being able to make the trail is like a real badge of, you've got something, right? It's, climbing up rock walls, all kinds of crazy stuff. They got this really wild trail. So they wanted to do a special edition Bronco for the King of Hammers, and they were getting the right suspension and tires and trucks, and build a few hundred of these, make it a King of Hammers edition. What are you going to do on the interior for the King of Hammers truck? We've got a design team. We got this lead designer, Rami, who's he's amazing. So he comes up with stuff and it blows my mind. He pattern perfed the King of Hammers trail into the insert of the King of Hammers Bronco.
Awesome.
So the insert of the Bronco, they only made a couple hundred of them. It's got the trail and it's perforated into the interior of the seat. The trail this truck's going to be able to go down. And I just thought that we're doing stuff like that all the time, but that one was really cool.
I'll tell you one, Jesse. So we had Ian Lane on. So 2023 SEMA Person of the Year. Sorry, ladies, he beat you too. And we had him on, and we did his Bronco. We built it for SEMA 2 years ago, I think, for boosting. And he had watched that movie Fandango, old movie with Kevin Costner. It was around the Big Bend Trail and everything. And so I said, he's like talking to me about what he wants to do. I said, well, whatever we do, we got to make this thing look good. We put a leather in it. So we wrapped the dash in mahogany, and I'm a big mahogany fan, as you can tell by my headphones. But so I had Katzkin make this mahogany leather, and it had nice two-tone piping and had the hex stitch in it, and two-tone stitching, and it had Fandango embroidered on the seat back and everything like that. So anyway, I love it. I think it looks beautiful and everything like that. So he gets this vehicle, right? And he put so much time and effort. We built a lot of it. He designed like the wheels, and he wanted to mount a certain way, and he wanted the flares to be a certain way, and he wanted this graphic pattern, and he spent hours and hours and hours and hours. And he had so many compliments, and people always said, oh, wow, I really like that interior. Oh, he would get so pissed every time. He would text me. He's like, the one thing that everybody loves about this Bronco is the Katzkin interior that you put in it. I was like, dude, it's what sets that thing apart. So to this day, he's still like that. I do all this work and I drive this around. It can do all these off-roading things, but it's got this leather in it that everybody likes.
That's awesome.
Ron, what was maybe the funniest or the most bizarre or the strangest thing that's happened to you in your business? You've had a long career. I'm sure you could come up with something weird. You got anything funny, bizarre, strange, different?
Well, the first thing that comes to my mind, I really can't say on the podcast.
Remember, Jesse, he goes and visits restylers, and then they go out to dinner and or drinks after, and then they have a Katzkin party every year at SEMA. So what you're asking is really not allowed.
Yeah, it's I'll give you a strange.
Somebody fell in the pool at the Katzkin party.
Idea.
Yeah, so we can't
that's
nail it
happened
down
a
to
couple
that.
times. Yeah, we're pretty infamous for our parties at SEMA. We've been running our parties at SEMA consecutively every year except when SEMA didn't work since 2000.
And whoever listens to this, they may not realize this. We have a lot of our people in the industry, so this is a good time to tell them because the authorities aren't going to be able to hear this. So tell Jesse Jesse, when you're Katzkin and you rent, or for the weekend or the week, however long you guys rent it, the Elvis room at the top of the Westgate, which is the largest hotel room in Las Vegas. It's amazing. It's beautiful. But usually the Westgate is like, oh, if you want drinks, you use our drinks. So Ron, go ahead and fill the children in on how my boy here pulls off a epic party that everybody comes to since 2001.
Well, I'd like to point out that Katzkin does everything we can do to be fiscally responsible.
Beep,
Uh,
beep. Disclaimer,
uh,
Tim, he said it.
no, but seriously, I mean, you tried to throw a party for 1,000 restyling professionals and buy all of the tequila from the Westgate Resort would be prohibitive, shall we say?
Even Elvis can't afford that.
So yeah, so we always rent a couple big 3-row SUVs and take them down to the liquor store and provide our own bar setup for the hotel. But no, I mean it's allowed us to throw that party and be responsible. I mean, we do a lot of things to be fiscally responsible, we really do. But that one's kind of infamous in the industry because we do whatever it takes to make that party happen. And there's the party is among the highlights of my year every year because the really cool thing about that party is for years and years and years, we take big customers out to dinner and we do the things you do in Vegas and all that stuff. But you couldn't pay attention to the hundreds of smaller customers that, you may get 5 minutes in the booth or 30 minutes in the booth with them or something, but you couldn't really show your appreciation. And those guys are working hard. And when we throw these kind of parties where we can invite everybody, they so appreciate it. And I've got some big customers now that were really small and they're like, you couldn't believe you guys were welcoming us up to the Elvis suite, drink till we dropped and have a good time. And so that's and I've heard a lot of customers got a lot of great business ideas out of that meeting. Because
The
people get moved up
networking.
and they
Some of
talk
my
about a lot.
best memories of networking at SEMA is at the Katzkin party. When you're talking to another guy, you may not bump into these people at the show. The show is so large. What's the chances you're going to happen to be in the same booth at the same time? But you're at the party and you talk to, hey, what's been going on this last year, this, that, and successes or new people. And there's so many people from outside, just restylers that are part of the industry that still come to this thing. It's crazy. But
Well, and you're a great networker because Josh figures out how to get everybody to come to him. I mean, what he does when he comes to the parties, he goes back to
yes,
Elvis's bedroom. He pulls out the
yes.
robe, dismounts the clothes, puts the robe on, and then comes back out. Everybody wants, and Josh is,
So
walking
funny,
around.
funny
He's the
story about
man.
that, Jesse. So Ian and I are together, right? And Ian's never done a leather interior, but I said, listen, it's the best thing on your Bronco. You come to this party. So he comes to the party, and we're like, okay, we gotta go find these robes because if you're gonna be at the Elvis room, I mean, you might as well walk around like a baller. And so we put the robes on, and there's a security guard now. Whatever, but the security guard only has like one arm, okay? But he's a big dude. And he goes, you guys need to put those robes back. And I just look up at him, I'm like, and I know what was going through Ian's mind. Like, we can run, I think even if he tackled us, he's only going to get one of us with one arm. But we said, but it's one big arm. He probably could have crowded
really
us.
big
We
arm.
probably could have taken him, but we're not going to do that. We're not going to do that. It's Ron's party. Anyway, I said, you know what? We will put these back in 20 minutes. And he just smiled and goes, all right. And he let us out. We were back like an hour later or something like that. I lost track of time. But anyway, we did put them back too. So hopefully you were not charged for those robes. All right, let's talk about pro, because one thing I found out this week, Jesse. So Ron this is his second stint on pro. And he, being on the select committee, I should say. And he actually runs one of the task force for SASP, also the once we get into the auto shows, back into that, he kind of runs that. But what I found out is Katzkin was one of the founding manufacturers. I mean, so the Restylers had their group that started pro, but they needed buy-in from everybody. And Katzkin in 1992 was one of the Katzkin was on board pretty quick back then as far as being a part of pro. So tell us, Ron, why are you guys part of pro? Why do you personally do it? And what do you gain it?
Well, we're a restyling-based company, so I don't know if you're not going to be involved with the Professional Restyling Organization. That seems a little silly. But
Good point.
Yeah, for me, it's it's just been something I loved working with restylers and doing things to make the business better. I started in pro back like right when I was starting in the business with Katzkin, like in 01, 02. Um, I joined the select committee. I was elected to get involved with that. And the thing we were working on then that I was so proud of was ASE testing for leather interior installation and sunroof installation. So we kind of were validating um, our proficiency and all that. So that was, a huge thing I worked on. And I turned out of pro after that. And then I had some people who worked for me that were great that kind of kept Katzkin involved with pro and were great. And then they said, "Hey, you want to come back?" And I said, "Well, come back." And so I ran for it, and they graciously let me back on a couple of years ago. And so now we're working on restyler education, but it's, using SEMA's money to do things to make our business better, trying to fight for our share of that SEMA pie of money. And in all honesty, not buttering him up, Josh was huge in fighting for the restyling industry to get our fair share of the funds because, the restyling business is not like the founding part of SEMA. It's started by the gearhulk, the race car drivers, and, the people who've been in the Edelbrocks and the Hollies and all these people. And hey, I love them. I mean, I'm a, Detroit kid who loves hot rods. Don't get me wrong. But they were getting a disproportionate share of the funds from what was coming out of SEMA. And Josh fought tooth and nail to get more funds into the restyling side of it. And so now I'm kind of seeing how accomplished I was with that. And now we're working on things to get the restyling out into the auto shows. Started the Pro Cup Challenge, where we create these great vehicles that can be replicated on dealer lots. I mean, it's always a great group of people putting some time in. It's not that much time, a couple hours a month usually. You put unless you're president or whatever they call the leader of it. But they spend a little bit more time. But for the dozen of us or so that are on the select committee, we take one or two key items and we get together once a month and talk about things overall and what should we be working on. Everybody gives a little status update. But it's great. And I don't know. I love the networking. I love being around people. I love staying in touch with. I like working with the restylers part of it more than the manufacturer part of it. It's just kind of me. But yeah,
I think we got some good things coming. So we have a great core now too. So Colby and Kevin are doing a great job. So, but people like Ron, it gets lost that there's really 15 other people that are really behind this scenes making sure all this happens. So it's really cool. Thank you for all your volunteering help.
It's awesome.
Well, I appreciate it. Thank you for all you did.
I'm not dead yet, Ron.
You were,
thank you for, it's not, what, is that what you're going to say at my funeral? Thanks for all you did. I'm not dead. We're still fighting. No, I'm joking. I'm joking. He knows.
You are a shoo-in for lifetime achievement.
Not that
You've
old,
done
dang
the work on one,
I told Prosser last year, just because you won lifetime achievement, just because you're the first person in the last 3 years that's been alive to win it, doesn't mean you have to go away anytime soon. Stick around, buddy.
Ron, I would like to hear a little bit about how you approach marketing and sales for Katzkin, because you've got an important role with that, right? So what strategies have you guys been most successful with? What are you doing in terms of business development at Katzkin?
Gosh, it's kind of my life. I think it's just hustle. It's coming up with new exciting things that are going to help restylers market to dealers and dealers market to end users. There's a lot of new things in the works right now as the whole dealer side of the business is evolving. A lot more of the initial customer interaction is happening online behind the scenes, through business development centers and on websites and more digital tools, where that may have happened in the past at an initial walk of the lot at the dealership by a customer. They may be doing a lot more of that early research online. They're still taking delivery at the dealership primarily or finalizing their purchase there. But we used to get introduced a lot earlier because we were forefront in their profit picture and we had stock units on the lot. So we're working really hard right now to get integrated into those tools so that Katzkin gets known by the consumers as early as possible in the development cycle. So that's an important part is, we've spent millions and millions and millions of dollars over each year for multiple years here to make more consumers aware of our product. We've probably tripled or quadrupled the consumer awareness of the category over the past couple of years. So part of that is driving the consumer into the dealership and making it easier for our restylers to sell. And then just, listening and doing things right. I don't have any, big far-flung, what's the business going to look like in 2026 things. I mean, I'm working on what's going to happen in 2 weeks and how are we going to get restylers to focus on selling Katzkin and what kind of great advantages can I give them that'll make them want to promote and sell my product to their customers. And, that's the big thing. And how can we be more supportive of our customers' retail efforts themselves? A lot of our customers have invested heavily in retail as they had to change their business over the pandemic. Really 5-7 years ago, a lot of restylers weren't very retail focused. And a lot of them have a lot of effort on retail now. And so part of my thing is how can I support your retail, but also don't forget about the wholesale. There's a real need to keep the volume at a certain level so that we can all be successful. And that wholesale opportunity is still there. So I'm trying to do a lot of things, but it's all restyler centric, customer centric stuff. How do we get in front of the customer? How do we make it easier for the restyler?
If
Stuff like
you
that.
had to give some advice to somebody just starting out in restyling, what would you tell them?
Um,
Maybe they don't carry Katzkin yet.
I would tell them it's an awesome industry if you're willing to put in the work. This is not an industry where you're not going to be able to be successful without working your butt off. And the other thing, the thing that's been really good for me, I got taught day one of this business and was just be honest with everybody. When something bad happens, address it, take care of it, go over above and beyond to make it right. People in this business are very forgiving if you just tell them your circumstances and you work through it and we figure out a way to be successful. But so, I would tell them to don't be tricky about it. Don't be devious. Don't go out and just try to cut price and figure out how cheap you can do something. Go out and do it right. Be the best at it and focus on what you can handle. So that's, I don't know if that's the right answer. That's coming today.
Well, we're going to let it pass because, you are a legend.
Ron, how do people get a hold of you or find out more about what you do? If people are curious about Katzkin, what websites do they go to and how do they get a hold of you?
Right. So Katzkin actually has 2 websites that we can mention on this venue. So Katzkin.com is retail. I mean, that's where consumers interact with the company. We have a different site called KatzkinToolbox.com that's focused on the wholesale side of the business. So we build tools in there that restylers can use to find trim line walks, to go through a vehicle configurator, design your own tool that doesn't try to accost you and sell you at the end of it, like we would do on our retail side. And then, my contact information hasn't changed in 27 years. So, I mean, it's ronl@katzkin.com and my mobile number is in everything that, we do. So reach out to me, reach out to any of my 15 great salespeople we have. We try to be very, very accessible. We try to listen, like I said, and, we're trying to work hard. So that's
awesome. Thank you so much for being here today. Any last words there, Josh?
Thanks, Ron, for being here. You really you've taught me personally a lot about this business over the years, and we're just happy to have you around. And I'm glad you're only 50 because that means I can stay pace with you for a while, and you're not leaving because I don't want you to be out of here before I'm out of here. So,
great.
Yeah, we got a few more Katzkin parties. I will see you in a robe next November. All right, fellas. Thanks,
I'll
Ron.
be there.
So thanks a lot. Appreciate it, Ron. All right.
Take care, guys. That was great.
And there you have it, another high-octane episode of the Ride and Style podcast, revved up and ready to go. Your hosts, Jesse Stoddard and Josh Polson, shifted your automotive game into overdrive. If you're hungry for more insights, trends, and game-changing interviews from the automotive restyling universe, don't forget to hit subscribe and leave a glowing review. We'd also love for you to share this podcast with your gearheads, installers, and auto lovers network. Because remember, knowledge is power, but shared knowledge turbocharges the whole industry. For more expert resources to supercharge your business, cruise on over to autostylemarketing.com, your one-stop shop for everything automotive marketing. Until next time, keep those wheels spinning and your passion ignited. Thank you for riding in style with us. See you on the next lap.